The alarm goes off at 6:30 a.m., as always. I turn it off with a quick motion, without hesitation. My feet touch the wooden floor of my impeccably organized apartment. The coffee is already prepared, thanks to the coffee maker's automatic programming. My phone vibrates on the dining table. A message from my boyfriend. "Good morning, love. See you tonight?" I smile at the screen, automatically. My life is perfect. A solid job at an advertising agency. A stylish apartment in an upscale neighborhood. A stable relationship with a man that anyone would consider the ideal partner. Intelligent, educated, successful. And yet, something is wrong. I notice it in the moments of silence. When the world slows down and there's nothing to distract me except the distant sound of the city waking up. There's an emptiness I can't name. But soon it dissolves, swallowed by the rush of the day. By the routine I follow with precision. By the life I built myself, brick by brick, exactly as it should be. Perfect. Or almost. The cold morning wind makes me pull my coat closer to my body as I hurriedly descend the building's steps. My heels echo on the wet concrete of the sidewalk, and I'm already mentally calculating the time I have until my first meeting of the day. Then I bump into him. The impact isn't strong, but enough to make me stop abruptly. My shoulder hits something solid, warm and strong, and reflexively I take a step back. "Sorry," I murmur, without really looking. But when I lift my face, my eyes meet his. And for a moment, I forget where I was going. He holds a garbage bag in one hand, his dark uniform slightly dirty from work, his hair tousled by the wind. The sun-kissed skin contrasts with the deep green of his eyes, a rare, unusual green. He stares back at me, unhurried, as if he's studying me, as if he isn't the least bit concerned that I practically ran into him. My breath catches for a second, and then he smiles. "It happens," he says casually before turning to continue his work. I stand there for a moment, not knowing why my feet won't move. I never noticed him before. Or maybe I did, but never really looked. But now something inside me refuses to ignore him, and that scares me more than it should. I try to forget. I try to convince myself it was just a fleeting moment, a slip from my tired mind, an unimportant detail in the middle of my routine. But in the following days, something changes. Now I notice when he's there. When I turn the corner in the morning, my eyes find him before I even realize what I'm doing. He's always in the same spot, working with an almost carefree ease, moving the garbage bags with strength and precision, laughing at something one of the colleagues says. That laugh. It lingers in my head longer than it should. He seems different from everyone around me. Maybe it's the way he doesn't care to be anything other than what he already is. As if there's no rush, no masks, no need to prove anything to anyone. Free. And I hate him a little for it. Because I, with my perfect and organized life, have never felt that way. The morning begins like any other. Coffee, phone in hand, the usual rush. But as soon as I step out of the building, an unexpected noise makes me stop. Glass breaking. I look down and see the damage. My own distraction caused one of the bags I was carrying to fall right onto the wet ground. Among papers and packaging, the glass bottle I intended to recycle is now shattered on the sidewalk. Great. I crouch down, letting out an impatient sigh, ready to pick up the pieces. But before I can touch anything, a shadow moves beside me. Him. Be careful. His voice is low but firm. You might cut yourself. My breath falters for a second. He's closer than ever. His scent, something fresh, mixed with a faint aroma of sun and earth, envelops me in an unexpected way. His calloused hands easily gather the larger pieces of glass, and I feel strange. I've never been so aware of someone's presence. I can do this, I say, more to myself than to him. He lifts his eyes to mine, a playful glint dancing there. I know you can, he replies with a half smile that disarms me. My heart stumbles. He continues picking up the shards as if he hasn't just completely disrupted my day. As if that moment doesn't carry any weight. But it does. Because when he stands up and tosses the shards into the garbage truck, I feel the warmth of his gaze still glued to my skin. And suddenly, I don't know if I'm trembling from the morning cold, or because of him. You're acting strange. His accusation comes straight out, in the middle of dinner at a fancy restaurant. My fork pauses in the air for a second before I force a smile. Strange how? He rests his elbows on the table, analyzing me. Distracted. Distant. As if you're here, but at the same time, you're not. I swallow hard. He noticed. My boyfriend is the kind of man who picks up on details. He notices when I change my perfume, when I style my hair differently. Of course, he would notice my mind wandering. The problem is, I don't even know how to explain it to myself. I'm just tired, I murmur, diverting my gaze to the wine in my glass. Tired of what? Good question. Work? The predictable routine? The feeling that my entire life has been meticulously planned and yet something is missing? Or tired of the irrational guilt I feel every time I think about another man? You're bored, aren't you? He continues, his voice lower now. My throat tightens. I don't know if I'm bored, but I know something inside me is restless. As if there's something waiting to be discovered. Something I spent too much time ignoring. And maybe, just maybe, I started to see it in the eyes of a stranger who shouldn't mean anything. So I do what I always do when my life threatens to go off the rails. I force a smile and pretend that everything is fine. The morning was chaotic. A deluge of overdue emails, endless meetings, and a mind that insisted on wandering to places it shouldn't be. I rush down the building's steps, gripping my coffee tightly, trying to cling to routine, to normalcy. And then, I bump into him. Again. The impact is enough to make my coffee slip from my hand. The hot liquid spills onto the floor, splattering a few drops on his uniform. Shit! I blurt out impulsively, quickly bending down to pick up the tipped cup. But before I can drown in embarrassment, I hear an unexpected sound. He is laughing. I look up, confused, and see the amused sparkle in his eyes. A crime against caffeine, he murmurs, shaking his head as if it were an irreparable tragedy. And without realizing it, I laugh too. A genuine, spontaneous laugh, something I can't remember the last time it happened. When I look at him again, I see something different there. A silent curiosity, as if he were just as surprised by this moment as I was. I think I owe you a coffee, I say without thinking. He raises an eyebrow, crossing his arms. I'll collect. Damn. The heat rising up my neck is immediate. Is he flirting with me? Or am I just seeing things that aren't there? But for the first time, my mind stops spinning around what is right or wrong. And for a brief moment, I just feel. And that scares me more than anything else. I don't know when it started. Maybe it was that easy smile he gave me when the coffee fell to the ground, or the way he looked at me as if he were trying to decipher something I didn't understand myself. I just know that now he appears in the most unexpected moments of my mind. In the middle of a meeting when I should be focused on what my boss is saying. In the silence of my apartment when I look out the window and wonder if he is still out there, finishing up work. In the moment my boyfriend holds my hand across the table at the restaurant, and I realize his touch no longer makes me feel anything. And more than anything, I realize I am looking forward to mornings. I wait for the moment I leave the building and see if he is there. I look for the casual wave he gives me, for the husky laugh that escapes when one of the colleagues says something silly. I wait for a glance. I wait for him. And that is dangerous. Because a part of me already knows that when something like this starts, it is almost impossible to go back. The city looks different at night. The streets have a golden glow under the streetlights. The wet sidewalks reflect the movement around. I shouldn't be here. But somehow, fate, or maybe something inside me that I don't want to admit, brought me to him. It was by chance. At least, that's what I tell myself. I went out for a mindless walk, trying to clear my head, and then there he was. This time, without a uniform. Just a dark t-shirt, worn jeans, hands in pockets as he stared into nothing. He seemed different, but at the same time, exactly the same. When he saw me, he stopped. And what happened next was inevitable. The conversation started casually. He asked what I was doing there, and I lied, saying I just wanted some fresh air. We talked about trivial things, about the city, about how the night had a different silence than the day. But then at some point, the conversation shifted. We started to talk for real. About unfulfilled dreams. About the feeling of being stuck in a life that doesn't seem truly yours. About what it means to be free. And suddenly, the silence between us became charged. There were no more easy laughs or coffee jokes. Just that invisible weight. That undeniable magnetism that seemed to grow with each second. I felt when he leaned in, slowly, as if giving me time to back away, as if letting me decide. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to. God, how I wanted to. But at the last second before his lips touched mine, something inside me screamed. My boyfriend, my life, my routine. I stepped back, my chest rising and falling quickly, as if I had just run a marathon. His eyes sparkled for a moment, not out of frustration, but understanding. He didn't say anything, just nodded, as if to say, I understand. And in that moment, I realized what was more frightening. It wasn't the fact that I almost kissed him. It was the fact that I wanted so much to go back and not stop it from happening. I try to act as if nothing happened, but it's too late. My body may have stepped back that night, but my mind didn't. My thoughts swirl around him, about how it would have been if I hadn't stopped, if I had given in to what my body was screaming for. And that guilt consumes me. My boyfriend notices. You're different, he says with two attentive eyes, as we have dinner at the restaurant we always go to on Fridays. I force a smile. I'm just tired. He lets out a short, humorless laugh. You always say that. My throat tightens. He puts his fork down and looks at me. Do you want to break up? My heart races. What? Of course not. But the lie sounds fragile even to me. He lets out a long sigh, rubbing his hand over his face. You're not here, he murmurs. I can feel it. You're with me, but your mind is somewhere else. I look down. Because he is right. And that hurts more than I imagined. I don't want to hurt him. He has always been good to me. He has always been the kind of boyfriend anyone would approve of. But I already know, continuing with him would be a lie. And what scares me is not just this truth. It is realizing that the decision I need to make has already been made within me. I just lack the courage to admit it. The end of the relationship should bring relief. But all I feel is an unsettling emptiness. My apartment has never felt so big. My clothes scattered on the floor, the television on without sound, my phone vibrating with messages from concerned friends. I should respond. I should say that I'm okay. But I'm not sure if I am. I ended it because it was the right thing to do. Because staying in that relationship, pretending nothing had changed, would be unfair. But now, the question that haunts me is different. What comes next? I could simply seek him out. I could go to him and say how I feel, admit that he messed everything up inside me. But what if that's a mistake? We come from completely different worlds. I am made of rules, plans, expectations. He never cared about what others think. He never tried to be anything other than what he is. What would people say? What would I say if it were before? My mind is at war. And deep down, I know that the real fear isn't about him. It's about me. About the possibility that perhaps I've spent my whole life living the right way and still never really lived. I tried to avoid it. I tried to ignore the urge to turn the corner and look for him every morning. I tried to convince myself that this confusion inside me was temporary. But then, I saw him. In the same place as always, throwing a bag of trash into the truck with the ease of someone who has repeated that motion 1,000 times. But this time, he wasn't laughing. He wasn't joking with his colleagues. He seemed to know I was there before I even said anything. I took a deep breath, gathering the courage I had been lacking for days. I need to talk to you. He didn't react immediately. He just wiped his hands on his jeans, watching me. I'm listening. My throat dried up. I knew that after this, there would be no turning back. I don't know what to do with this, I blurted out bluntly. His eyes sparkled, but he remained silent. Since I met you, nothing makes sense anymore, I continued. I feel like I'm torn between who I've been my whole life and who I really want to be. A muscle contracted in his jaw. And who do you want to be? I laughed humorlessly, throwing my hands up. I don't know. That's the problem. I've spent my whole life following the rules, planning every step. But now, everything feels wrong. He was quiet for a moment, just watching me. Then he stepped forward. I can't decide that for you. His tone wasn't harsh nor cold. It was just honest. You need to figure out for yourself what you really want. He continued. I'm not going to convince you. I'm not going to ask you for anything. He paused, and I felt every accelerated beat of my heart. But if you ever decide, I'll be here. My chest tightened, because for the first time, someone wasn't trying to fit me into a decision. He was letting me choose. And that was scarier than anything. Life went on as usual, or at least it tried. I went to work. I went out with friends. I came home and tried to fill the empty nights with movies, books, anything that would distract me. But nothing worked, because deep down, I already knew the answer. I spent days trying to rationalize, weighing pros and cons on an invisible scale. But every time I thought about going on with my life without him, I felt a suffocating tightness in my chest. So I stopped thinking and started feeling. I remembered his easy laughter, the spark in his eyes when he talked about something simple yet true. I remembered how alive I felt by his side, how for a few moments I forgot the weight of being who I always thought I needed to be. I talked to friends, listened to advice, but in the end, only one thing mattered. I had never been as happy as in the moments when I forgot who I was supposed to be, and simply was. And that was my answer. No rules, no guarantees, no certainties. Just the overwhelming feeling that, for the first time, I was choosing something just for me. So, I took my keys, and I went after him. My heart hammered in my chest as I turned the corner. He was there, as always. As if the world hadn't crumbled inside me in the past few days. As if he had never thrown me off balance without even trying. He didn't see me right away. He was focused on his work, his shirt sleeves pulled up to his elbows, muscles moving under his tanned skin as he carried a heavy bag to the truck. But then, as if he sensed my presence, he stopped and saw me. Time seemed to slow down. His green eyes slid over me as if trying to decipher why I was there. As if he didn't dare to believe it. I let out a shaky breath before finally speaking. Have you finally decided? My voice didn't come out as firm as I wanted, but it came out. And that was enough. He didn't respond immediately. He just watched me for a long second. Then, a slow, almost hesitant smile formed on his lips. Yes, I replied, with all the certainty I now carried in my chest. And for the first time, the fear completely dissolved. His smile slowly faded, giving way to something more intense. Something that held me in place. The world around us continued to move. Cars passing, the sounds of the city, the smell of coffee coming from the corner. But for me, everything came down to him. He dropped what he was holding, wiped his hands on his pants, and stepped forward. And then, without haste, without hesitation, he pulled me close. The warmth of his body met mine, and my heart stumbled in my chest. This time, I didn't pull away. This time, I surrendered. His lips found mine, and the collision was as inevitable as the attraction that had pulled us to each other since the first glance. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a liberation. It was the answer to all the questions that haunted me for days. My hand slid to his neck, and I felt him grip my waist tighter, as if he needed to keep me there, as if he knew I was finally where I was meant to be. When we pulled away, my breath was shaky, my body warm despite the cold morning wind. He looked at me as if he knew exactly what I was feeling, because he felt the same. And for the first time, I didn't want to run from it. The kiss changed everything. But the world was still there, and somehow now I needed to deal with it. The people around pretended not to notice, but I knew. I knew that some were glancing sideways, that others were wondering what I was doing there, in high heels and a fancy coat, in his arms. But for the first time, I didn't care. He didn't either. So, he began, his voice laden with something between amusement and curiosity. What happens now? I let out a short laugh, still breathless. You always have all the answers. Tell me. He tilted his head, studying me. I never tried to have all the answers. That's your thing. I bit my lip, feeling the truth in those words. My life had always been about plans, expectations, the need to have everything under control. But now, here with him, for the first time, I didn't know exactly what came next. And that was okay. I held his hand, feeling the rough warmth of his skin against mine. Now we discover together. He smiled. And in that moment, I knew. I no longer needed the world's approval. I just needed him. Their love wasn't planned. It didn't follow rules. It didn't happen the right way. But maybe that was exactly why it was real. Days passed, and the world continued to turn. People looked, some in silence, others with questions that were never asked directly. But none of that mattered anymore. Because for the first time, I was living for myself. I was where I wanted to be. In his arms, in the simple and imperfect moments, in the easy laughter, in the touch that said more than words. The love between us didn't need justification. It didn't need approval. It just existed. And for the first time, I felt no fear.